Hello, celestial beings. It's me, Mel, aka Pocket Mystic, and I'm on a mission to make mysticism more accessible and supportive through tarot readings, astrological updates, and guided meditations that fit seamlessly into your schedule. Like a little mystic in your back pocket, if you will. Today we're going to be doing an energetic update for 2026 as a whole, through the lens of astrology, tarot, human design, numerology, and the Chinese Zodiac. Before I get into all of it, we will be doing our first ever giveaway here at Pocket Mystic. So it will be a full free year of tarot readings with 4 3-month outlook tarot readings to be given in January, April, July, and October in 2026. There will be 3 winners, and to enter, all you need to do is sign up for our mailing list at pocketmystic.com. There will be like a little box that pops up for $5 off, or you can scroll all the way to the bottom to add your email to the list. And I will draw the winners on Monday, December 29th, so please get your email in before midnight, your time on the 28th, to be eligible to win. Okay, but back to the topic at hand. A few things before we deep dive into 2026 that I would like to say to help set the tone. So first of all, you've probably heard, sneak peek though, 2026 is going to be a year of major paradigm shifts. And I know, like I said, you're probably hearing that everywhere, and you're like, what the heck? Things are going to shift at a macro level. That is for sure. And I think when we talk about change, our brains naturally go into panic mode. Our brains are obsessed with keeping us alive. Thank you. Thank you, brain. And they know how to do that when they know what to expect. And when they don't know what to expect, they come up with the worst case scenarios to prepare for so they can keep doing their job of keeping us alive. We thank them for this, yes? However, what I want to encourage all of us, myself included, is to let our brains do their thing. Let them do it. Tell them that we hear them. We hear all of their fears. We see all of their worst possible outcomes. And we appreciate all the work that they're doing to keep us alive. And then we can ask them to consider, how good could this change or these changes be? Because I believe that with all of this uncertainty, we have Pluto in the background here in Aquarius, and that energy is obsessed with improving outcomes for the collective. So I genuinely believe that these changes are going to be for the overall benefit of the collective. Maybe if you are a trillionaire, it's not going to be great for you. But if you are, you're probably not listening to this. And if you are somehow, feel free to donate. But I think for the majority of people, these changes, these paradigm shifts are ultimately about correcting what's been imbalanced for the masses, if you will. So if you came here looking for someone to give you doom and gloom or make you scared about the future, I am not your mystic. So while we walk through these different modalities, I'm going to continue to ask you to think, how good could this be? The other thing I just want to say is, we talk about paradigm shifts, and especially when we get into what human design has to say about this, I think our tendency is to think that it's going to be like instant, right away, major change. But I mean, there are changes that happen like that, but for the most part, I don't think it's so drastic or instant, which I think helps us to kind of get more comfortable, helps our brains to get more comfortable with how things are changing. The other thing I want to say is we are going to be getting a little slutty with modalities here. As I said, we're talking about 2026 through the lens of astrology, tarot, human design, a little bit of numerology, a little bit of the Chinese Zodiac. I might even touch a tiny bit on gene keys. And the reason that I'm doing this is because one, I'm just naturally slutty with my modalities, okay? I have so much respect and appreciation for people who choose to like dedicate themselves, devote themselves, and be faithful to a single modality. And I believe that sometimes different modalities can be more or less helpful at different times to different people. So as your pocket mystic, I want to meet you in what's most helpful for you. And two, I know that you're going to be hearing so much from so many places, and I personally believe that human design is going to grow in popularity in 2026. You are going to start hearing a lot about it. So I want to give you enough of an overview about these different, modalities, schools of thoughts, so that as you start hearing about them, you know a little bit about what it is, and you know if it's something you even want to spend time getting more or less deep on. And three, I actually believe that when you take all of these things together, they weave a very holistic perspective about what's going on, and they're actually kind of all supporting each other about the changes that we're going to see. So they're, weaving this much bigger picture than just one modality could give you. So, with all of that preamble, let's get into 2026. I do have timestamps in the description that share which section is where. So if you only care about one lens, you can just jump straight into it. So I'm going to start first with what's happening astrologically in 2026. My first love of the modalities. And I'm going to go chronologically here with the big impactful transits. But before I do that, I just want to say overall, one thing to note is that, in the past handful of years, all of these outer planets, which impact the collective more than the individual per se, have been in like Earth water signs. So Earth, as you know, is kind of slow moving. It tends to be a little bit more stable, maybe more stubborn, maybe more grounded. And then water, which is, gentle, not always, but in the case of what we're talking about, nurturing. And then we're moving into a time of a lot of fire and a lot of air. So, we have some big planets moving into Aries. We got Pluto in Aquarius. We even have Jupiter is going to be moving out of Cancer and into Leo. So it's going to be, and the node shifts to Aquarius and Leo. So it's going to be a lot of fire and a lot of air. And when you have placements there, things tend to move much quicker. Okay, so that was a lot of preamble. But let's do it. Let's get into 2026. And I do have timestamps below to share which section is where. So if you only care about one lens, you can just jump straight to it. And I'm going to start first with my first love. What's happening astrologically in 2026? I'm going to go sort of chronologically here with the big impactful transits. And this is going to be very, very high level. We'll have our monthly deep dives to get deep in. I don't want this to be too long, so I'm mostly just focusing on collective or social planets here, and eclipses, of course. So first thing, which is already in process, Pluto. Pluto, our slowest moving planet, the planet of transformation, power, fear, dread, our darkness, death and rebirth, upheaval, unearthing. This juggernaut of a collective planet is in Aquarius already. It flirted in and out of Aquarius a few times, but ingressed in there but for good on November 19th, 2024. But it is a slow-moving planet, baby. It has a 40 to 30-year transit, so it's still moving into the very early degrees of Aquarius here in 2026, but Aquarius is an air sign, and air signs are fast-moving. So even at the early degrees, we might see some major shifts happening, or at least some tremors of what's to come. So the last time we saw Pluto in Aquarius was, as I'm sure you famously now know, when America entered into the Revolutionary War and when we had the French Revolution. And what were those things really about? Wasn't it about bringing power to the people? No more kings. We're going to govern ourselves for the good of our collective. And the time before that one? Well, it was the Protestant Reformation. Hello, people can access God directly. We don't need to go through this person. And the Renaissance, of course. So that's the energy of Pluto in Aquarius. It's all about the good of the collective. And that energy is here with us in 2026. It's here with us in 2025. And I think we're all sort of feeling the collective awakening of class consciousness. Are we not? That's all I'll say about that. So then big news, big splash, big bang. We have Neptune entering Aries on January 26th. So Neptune is our planet of dreams, illusions, escapism. Things aren't quite as they seem. Spirituality, psychic powers, dissolution. It is like the great dissolver, and it is leaving Pisces, the sign that it is the modern ruler of. Because are you hearing the similarities there? And heading into fiery Aries. Now we got a glimpse of this before, right? March 30th through October 22nd of 2025. So we can kind of look back through that time and our notes and our pictures to understand what we can expect for us personally. But let's think about Neptune and Pisces. You know how people joke, or maybe they're not joking, online about how the Mayans were right about the world ending in 2012. Now we're in some sort of weird hellscape alternative timeline. Okay, well, I don't believe the hellscape part. Well, sometimes. But I do think that points to Neptune in Pisces. Like everything just feels like, wait, what? Like, what is this world we're in? And how is it so different from the one we thought it would be? That's Neptune in its prime of everything feeling sort of otherworldly and hard to like grasp. I also think this energy is what has allowed for the rise of belief systems other than Christianity to start getting their footing in the collective awareness in Christian-dominated areas in the world. Like, right? It's like, okay, spirituality is loose. It doesn't have to be this rigid thing. But now this energy, this dissolution energy is moving into Aries. And Aries is the first sign of the Zodiac. And like all naive youths, it is bold, it's courageous, it's fiery, it's headstrong, it is ready to make moves and have an impact. It's not waiting, it's going. In tarot, Aries is represented by the Emperor, and it is ruled by Mars, the planet of action and aggression. It's also a sign of selfhood. So we have this planet of illusions going into a sign of self-determination. I think this placement is going to give us a major boost to rethink who we are, who we want to be, versus the stories we might have told ourselves over and over again or might have had told to us. It's time to rethink our boundaries, explore our limitations, and rewrite our own ethos. We can throw everything away and start anew when it comes to our selfhood if we want here. It's giving us the space to do that. But this is also happening collectively, right? So Neptune is a collective planet, so that's going to be happening on a broad scale and make us all collectively reassess our shared vision of spirituality and truth and allowing it to be more personal. We don't need to have a shared vision, but can we find a way to come together where you can hold your belief and I can hold mine and they don't have to cause friction? And then we have Saturn also leaving Pisces for good and moving into Aries on February 14th. Happy Valentine's Day to all of us. Now, Saturn is the planet that rules boundaries and restrictions and time and limitation and wisdom. And so it's entering this fiery sign of selfhood and stubbornness and action. Now, one thing to note, Saturn did not love being in watery, effervescent Pisces, but it sure as heck does not love being in Aries either. In fact, Aries is the sign of its fall. And that's probably because Aries is constantly pushing boundaries, right? When you're at the early stages of development, you have to constantly push boundaries, test them, see where the limits are. So we've had Saturn sort of flirting in and out of Pisces and Aries since March 2023. We had big stretches of it in Aries in 2025 from May 24th to September 1st. So think back to that time and the themes that were coming up for you, because they're going to be coming up again. Because it's in Aries for good until April 12th, 2028. Now, Saturn is a social planet. So I think this transit is going to have us all reassessing our boundaries between our selfhood and our getting along with one another. What parts of our self are we no longer willing to shrink in the name of everyone else's comforts? And how much space can we make for each other and each other's need to express self, even if it's not exactly what we would choose? There's going to be a lot of these social conversations happening. And then, big news. We've never seen this in our lifetime, and we haven't seen this specific angle in many lifetimes. We have Saturn going conjunct with Neptune in Aries at 0 degrees, baby, on February 20th, the start of it all. Now, Mel, what the hell does that mean? Why are you calling it big? Well, Saturn rules boundaries, and Neptune is the great dissolver, reality distorter, if you will, and they are meeting up. So this means we can expect boundaries, aka also maybe borders, to change. Now, this might be literally, or it might be more metaphorically. So we have seen in our lifetimes, depending on how long you've been alive, we have seen Saturn conjunct Neptune, just not in Aries. Last time we saw Saturn conjunct Neptune, it was in 1989. Hello, the fall of the Berlin Wall. See what I mean about boundaries dissolving? And then the time before that was in 1952. Hello, Cold War. So metaphorical shifts, right? So I would expect changes in how we understand and view the boundaries of the world and all of our places in it. Now, okay, so I know I've been talking about big shifts, and then I said that we are going to try to imagine how good these changes could be. How good could Saturn going conjunct with Neptune be? So let's take a quick minute to ground us in the changes. Neptune is the dream, the mystic, the fog, the longing, and Saturn is the container, the reality check, the devotion. In Aries, aka the self, spirituality becomes personal and embodied. Delusion gets confronted fast here, which might feel like, ooh, but that's a good thing, right? And identity becomes a practice, not a concept. It's about living out this becoming that you're looking for. So the question of the year, or at least this conjunction, will be, can you build the life you say you want through this careful devotion and acting out the selfhood that you are claiming? Now, the shadow side of this is savior fantasies, okay? Thinking that you need to go and save people. You don't. This is really about all of us taking back our own self-sovereignty. Spiritual bypassing, trying to pretend like, oh, I'm fine now, this is who I am, without having to maybe go back and meet your inner child who's screaming, kicking, crying, saying, excuse me? I don't feel that way. You never came back and got me here. I'm meant for more, but no follow through. Saturn is like, no, And that's why I think sometimes, Capricorns can get a bad rap, if you will, but they're kind of living under this placement of like, I have to face the reality of what is all the time. And I have to take action on what I want. And you might be feeling, I don't know, like identity crisis or reinvention whiplash. Wait, who am I? Who am I? But the thing is, you know, and in these past years, especially 2025 and the shedding that has been happening, you know. And if you feel like you don't know, then probably you're just afraid of the action, or you have an inner child inside of you who's been spiritually bypassed that you're going to have to go back to. And the medicine during this time is discipline as devotion. Discipline is not about willpower, really. It's about committing to a vision and showing up for it every day. We also need boundaries as energetic hygiene. We can't say yes to everything. We have to know what's aligned for us and what's not. And then action as spell work. We need to take aligned action to bring our manifestations, our dreams into being. So 2026 is about action. We've got a lot happening in Aries, which is a sign all of action. And then we'll get into it, but we have the magician who is taking action. He is actively alchemizing. And so something that's really going to help during this year and during all of these shifts is really taking time to tune in to your body, to understand what a hell yes feels like in your body and what a no feels like in your body. Because no is holy. Saturn loves a good no. So the more you can start to really feel that and pay attention when you're with people or when you're doing activities or when you're thinking about something, your body is going to help you understand what is a no and what is a yes the more you tune into it. Okay, so let's get back into it because I don't want this to be 12 hours or even 1 hour. So let's talk about our eclipses, baby. Our eclipses are starting to say goodbye, not fully, to their turn on the Pisces-Virgo axes, which dominated 2025. And they are flirting with the Leo-Aquarius axis. Now, on February 17th, 3 days before Saturn goes conjunct to Neptune, we have a solar eclipse in Aquarius. This kicks off a new era. This is the first time we're having the eclipses on this axis, and it is about pushing humanity towards innovation, humanitarianism, and social progress. So we're going to be seeing technology changes like crazy, which, by the way, is also Pluto in Aquarius and also Uranus and Gemini coded. We haven't gotten to that, but we will. So check where Aquarius and Leo sit in your chart to understand what's going to be playing out for you personally during these eclipses, because eclipses are always about a shedding, a shaking, showing you the truth, and understanding where they are, like which houses they're sitting in, is really going to help you during this time. So then on March 3rd, we do have the lunar eclipse in Virgo in the South Node, so we're going back because we're not quite finished wrapping up that cycle. So think back to how the 2025 eclipses hit for you to understand where the universe is encouraging you to push through. And because it's in Virgo and it's in the South Node, it might be a little judgmental feeling, a little critical, and it might encourage you to think about your health, your habits, service, devotion, nervous system reality, which is all going to be a part of what we need to do to support ourselves during this big highlight in Aries. And then on April 25th, this is not eclipse related, we have Uranus entering Gemini. And I have a whole video about this alone, but just know to expect major technological shifts and even shifts in transportation. Does the US finally start to get a working railway system? Wouldn't that be great? Will we have lightning fast flight capabilities? I don't know. Let's see. And also just remember that Uranus represents your nervous system, and it's entering Gemini, which is like a lightning rod. So it's going to be really important to have these grounding practices almost as like a daily ritual. Then on June 19th, we have Chiron, wounded healer, entering Taurus. So basically, Chiron is all about wounds and healing, wounded healer, right? And he's going into the earthy, material, very embodied sign of Taurus. I think we'll start having mass acceptance and understanding of the body-heart-mind connection and wider acceptance of somatic practices as essential to healing. You feel things in your body. You live through your body. And that's going to become apparent to all of us as we're going through this. And again, I think this is a great time to check out your houses, which house is Taurus in, because you're going to be feeling wounds there as Chiron comes in. But they're good. They're for healing, right? And then on June 30th, we have Jupiter, the planet of luck, abundance, and expansion, entering bold, fiery, hello, look at me, Leo. This means Jupiter is expanding confidence, performance, creative power, leadership by heart. Remember, we said this is a year of being bold. Or if I didn't say that before, I'm saying it now. And hey, would you believe, by the way, in July, right after this, we have a lot happening. This is a busy, busy time, but a good one, where a lot of the planets are aligning together. We got Uranus sextiling Neptune, then it's trining Pluto, then Jupiter trines Neptune, then Jupiter opposes Pluto, then it sextiles Uranus, then Neptune sextiles Pluto. There's so much to say about this period, but what I want you to know is that July is the time, if you've been holding back at all, to be bold. And hopefully you've been doing all the prep work you needed before this, so that if there's something that you want to release into the world, it is ready to go by July, because that is a good time to do it. My book is already planned for June. I should have read the astrology ahead and known to do it in July. No, I think it'll be great. Okay. On August 12th, we have a solar eclipse in Leo, and expect it to open up questions or stir the desire for creative visibility, leadership, romance, performance, artistry. And then August 28th, we have our lunar eclipse in Pisces. And this is going to be all about endings, spiritual cleanup, compassion, dissolving old identities. So we are getting our eclipse portal a bit earlier. Normally it's like closer to September, but we'll take it, okay? We have Venus retrograde starting on October 3rd, always lasts for 40 days, moving from Scorpio and through Libra. Now, I do believe in thinking, how good can this be? And I think this is going to really shine a light on our relationships, on what is working and not, on relationships that might be worth maybe revisiting, and ones that are just ready to die. I think it's going to be a bit more intense than other Venus retrogrades, but it's also going to be a good time to really reevaluate what we value, literally and figuratively, where we are investing our time and money and energy, and are those the right places. I'm not going to say the rest of the year is quiet, but it is settling a bit in a way. And I think we've overstayed our welcome here in the modality of astrology. I think it's time to catch an Uber home to freshen up and meet with Numerology for coffee. So we are moving on. Now, astrology tells us what's moving on around us, right? You'll hear that it's like a weather forecast. But numerology will tell us what's being asked of us. So we are leaving a 9-year that we have been in, which is all about the end of a chapter, tying up loose ends, closing the books, and into a 1 year, which is all about beginnings. A universal 1 is an identity reboot. It's courageous beginnings. It's leadership. But it's not necessarily fresh start energy unless you choose it to be. Year 1 asks for self-definition. It's kind of taking all of the past 9 years as information and deciding what action do you want to take now. Now, the shadow side of a 1 year, you might feel impulsive, you might be like, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do this. It's that early energy, like Aries, right? So you might just feel like, wait, what if I do this? What if I do that? There's also sometimes like a sense of lone wolfing as freedom. Like, I'm going on my own, I'm doing my own thing, be a part of my pack or don't, and I don't really want you to be because I don't want to feel like I have to answer to you. And then there's also chasing novelty to avoid commitment. And then also we need to watch out for trying to create a new life without new patterns. Like, you're not going to make a new life repeating the same action that you've been taking. So it's a time to be honest with yourself. If you really want to dig into this year 1 energy and change, be in a new chapter. You just closed year 9. It's time to start afresh. But also, don't expect things to work out right away. It's the beginning. It's year 1, So I think working with the numerology can be really helpful to choose an identity that you want to embody this year. Not goals, but like a selfhood. Like, what's the kind of person you are becoming or want to become, and what are the habits that kind of person has, letting the habits follow the identity. So I think a really good prompt to help you if you're like, no, Mel, I don't know who that is. What do you keep delaying until you feel ready? That's really going to help inform what you want to drive towards in this year. And we know it's time to be bold. So also facing whatever fears you may have around why you have been putting that off, besides, I just don't feel ready. Because usually when we're saying, I don't feel ready, you have in your mind, well, what if this happens? What if this happens? And really confronting those fears. So that was a lovely coffee with numerology. Let's meet up again. But now I'm heading to a lunch date with tarot because that numerology lines up perfectly with the tarot. Numerology gives us the number of the year, but tarot gives us the archetype we're meant to be embodying while we're living through the year. So the way we know what numerological year we're in is we take the year 2026. 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 6 equals 10. But numerology goes up to 9. So you take the 1 plus the 0 and you get 1. And you do the same to figure out what the tarot card of the year is, which would give us the Magician, by the way. But there's another camp that says, no. We can have 10. We can include the Wheel of Fortune here. It's a big divide, but call me chaotic, why don't you? I actually kind of love having both of these for the year ahead. The Magician is all about alchemizing, about as above, so below, about as within, so without, about making our dreams for our reality become reality, about accepting reality as it is and using that information to perfect the alchemical change. Does that sound like Saturn and Aries to anyone else but me? And then we have the Wheel of Fortune card. Now, this card signifies destiny, cycles, change, fate, life's ups and downs, karmic turning points, and the constant motion of existence, suggesting that what goes up must come down and vice versa, urging acceptance of inevitable shifts and finding your center amidst chaos. Okay. Sounds very helpful for 2026. And there is so much more to say about this card. There is so much symbolism in it. We haven't even talked about the fixed signs all around it, but this is just a lunch date, right? So instead, what I'll say is that the reason I like the Wheel of Fortune card complementing the Magician is, yes, 2026 is going to be a year of personal sovereignty, self-sovereignty, but there's also a lot happening collectively and major paradigm shifts that we're going to be encountering. I think looking at them together, it's a great reminder to focus on what is in our control, what action can we take for ourselves, for what we want to see in the world, and releasing all that is frankly not in our control. And like we've been saying, hope that all the things that are changing are for the ultimate and highest good of humanity, which includes us as individuals. So now let's go for a walk with the Chinese Zodiac. We have been in a snake year, which is a year all about shedding, about stripping away. And on February 17th, we'll enter into a fire horse year. So fire horse energy feels like, well, we have the horse. It's about movement, freedom, charisma, speed, gorgeous creatures, so strong, so fast, so in love with freedom. And then fire, intensity, visibility, passion, acceleration. So together, this is sort of an unstoppable momentum if it's aligned. Now, the shadow side of this will be chaos disguised as freedom. It's kind of similar to what we've been talking about with year one. Burning bridges too fast. Being obsessed with adrenaline, like chasing that novelty, chasing that next thing, chasing that next high. Commitment phobia. And the medicine for that will be choosing a direction and committing. Seeing how it pans out. Not just giving up when you don't get the dopamine hit right away. Regulating your body will be so important. I mean, I talk about this with Uranus and Gemini, but very important in this year. And moving your energy daily. Horses need motion. They need to move. We talked about Chiron moving into Taurus, but you're going to need a way to connect to your body, to move it, to let it work out any of that stored energy that it might have from the day before. And this is a year where the universe will reward brave consistency, right? We've talked about the need for devotion and being bold. And we're seeing that here also with the fire horse. Some rituals that can help are movement spells. I talk about this a little bit in the Embodied Tarot series, but dancing can be really powerful to get you in the energy that you want to get into. You can just hold the feeling you want and dance through one song, and that can totally shift your perspective. Walking with intention of like, okay, here's what I want to work through on this walk. Here's what I want my guides to help me with. A freedom inventory, what's restricting me, what's protecting me, or like a courage altar. Just a symbol of the self you're becoming that helps you get in the energy of that self and brings you courage when things feel uncertain or scary. So now finally, sorry this is so long, we're going to be grabbing a drink with human design. And human design zooms us all the way out of the year, out of the moment, and asks, how does this fit into humanity's longer evolution? So I don't talk about human design much on here. I think it's a very powerful modality. Sometimes I think, especially if you think about a work setting, not necessarily like corporate, but like it's really helpful to think about strategies and your energy and the best way to preserve them. So personally, it's very powerful. And then collectively, it's amazing and kind of wild. And there's a lot of intricacy to it, which I won't get into. But I want to say that human design's biggest shifts are happening in 2027. So I think you're going to be hearing so much about this, even though the shift is happening in 2027. And that's because that's when we move from the cross of planning into the cross of the sleeping phoenix. See what I mean about terms. You're like, what the hell does that mean? And these shifts are shifts that last 450 years, which is why it's such a big deal for people who understand human design, and why it's just going to be getting louder. You're going to be hearing more about this because it's a major shift. So the cross of planning is all about building structure, structured societies, structured ways to connect, structured ways to disseminate knowledge and learning, structured belief systems. It's about infrastructure and community support systems. And it is focused on work. It is focused on productivity, on building things. And it is about continually iterating to make things better for the collective. And it's been here and the cross of planning since about 1615. So every single person alive today has been born under this cross. But then in 2027, February 15th, if I can read my handwriting, we move into the cross of the sleeping phoenix. So this will mark a major shift in humanity's direction, because the cross of the sleeping phoenix is about self-empowerment. It's about individuation and enlightenment. So while the cross of planning was about building, about this infrastructure, the cross of the sleeping phoenix asks us to slow down and really think about who we are as an individual and as a species and why we're here. It is a signature that craves true intimacy, the desire to truly be known outside of the way society has defined us. So when I say it's about individuation, it doesn't mean we're just all going to be by ourselves, because we do want that intimacy. It's just a different way of being. And some people are fear-mongering about this shift, and they're saying society's gonna collapse. But I've been listening to so many people talk through, and I just personally believe and agree that the change is going to be slow and gradual. So people will be born under the new cross in 2027, but we will have all of us born under this old cross of planning and then ramping up into this new age. It's not going to be like, okay, suddenly the world is completely different. Now, if you'll hear Richard Rudd talk about this, he has a different modality called Gene Keys, which he originally started working in human design. Anyway, he talks about 2026 as like the door is closing and the new energy can't come through, can't gain in momentum sort of to 2027, which I think is an interesting way to think about it. But anyway, if we're talking about 2026 specifically with human design, we have the sun entering the 54th gate on January 5th. Again, sorry for all the terminology, but this is a gate that is deeply mystical. It's about enlightenment and endarkment. Hello, Neptune in Aries. So gate 54 is the gate of ambition. It's about transformation through material mastery. And it lives in the root center. So its pressure is not mental, it's existential. Same thing we've been talking about. It asks, who am I becoming? What version of myself am I investing in? Am I chasing status or evolution? This gate is about ascension, but not like in some fluffy way. It requires action, right? Material mastery. Now, the shadow of this, when it's distorted, it can show up as grinding to prove your worth, chasing titles, platforms, or recognition, mistaking exhaustion for purpose, selling your soul for the temporary comforts. But when it's working from an aligned place from its highest expression of self, it's about devotion to long-term growth, patience with mastery, strategic ambition, and a willingness to start at the bottom of the right mountain, a willingness to start and to go. So let's take this gate 54 and sync it with all of the other modalities and then tie everything together because this is too long. I don't think I've ever had a video this long. Okay, so Saturn plus Neptune in Aries. Saturn, discipline, commitment, reality, devotion. Neptune, dreams, illusion, spirituality, dissolution. And Aries, self, identity, and initiation. And gate 54 says in the same way, dreams are not enough. Show me your devotion. Show me your action. And then with a 1 year in numerology, a 1 year says initiate, lead, choose yourself. And gate 54 says initiation requires effort and discernment. Now in a fire horse year, a fire horse wants freedom, momentum, bold movement. And gate 54 wants move fast, but in the right direction. So together they ask, are you ambitious because you're afraid or because you're becoming? And just a little note about the nervous system and gate 54, because this is subtle but critical. Gate 54 lives in the root, so pressure is constant. So like we've been saying with a lot of these shadows, in 2026, you might feel like urgency, restlessness. I need to change my life now. So next year I'll be working on some videos that will help support you in how to distinguish root pressure from soul alignment, the difference between anxiety and intuition. Okay, breathe. That was a lot. So let's tie it all together, celestial beings. We're almost done. We're almost at the finish line. When I step back and look at 2026 through all of these lenses, astrology, numerology, tarot, Chinese zodiac, human design, the message is actually very simple. This is not a year of hustling harder, though there might be rapid, fast movement. It is not a year of waiting for clarity. That clarity came this year. So if you're not feeling it, it's time to face your fears, to face your resistance, and understand what's underneath it. And it's definitely not a year for just running towards something because it's there. 2026 is the year of sacred ambition. It is the year of choosing the right, most soul-aligned mountain, of letting our nervous system, not our fear, tell us what's aligned, of committing to a version of ourself that doesn't require self-betrayal, right? We're learning to navigate selfhood in a way where we all get to feel represented, understood, heard. We don't have to do everything. We don't have to be everything, but we just need to choose devotion. We need to choose to show up every day. Devotion to our integrity, devotion to our body, devotion to what actually evolves us. Collectively, if we all engage in this, how can we not move ourselves to a higher outcome that's better for everyone? And if you feel pressure next year, urgency, restlessness, that I need to change my life now feeling, I want you to remember urgency is not intuition. Alignment is calm. And again, we'll be sharing more about that throughout the year. And we'll be walking through all of this together here at Pocket Mystic through monthly astrology updates, tarot readings, rituals, nervous system support, embodiment activities, guided meditations. So you're not navigating these shifts alone. So let's all take a breath, me, for sure. Thank your brain for trying to keep you safe and ask yourself one final question as we head into 2026. What is worth my devotion now? Thank you so much for spending this time with me. I would love to hear what you're most proud of in 2025 and what you're most looking forward to in 2026. Please sign up for the giveaway. I would love to read for you. And Happy New Year!